You're listening to Second Cut. This is a podcast from thefilmmagazine.com where we talk about topics in film theory, history, and criticism because it's what we like to do in our spare time. I'm Jacob, and I'm the one who, I should have prepared a bit here.
Believes in America?
Yes, no, I don't.
Just do something of really bad acting, and then it's about on par.
I did. So there we go.
I'm Sam. I'm the one who's holding Francis Ford Coppola's favourite symbol of death.
Yeah, that's about right. I'm Kieran. I'm the one who, I don't know, wrote a script, then 2 years later decided I should actually read a book on how to write decent scripts, picked up the screenwriting book, and it said, go watch the film that I wrote.
I should have done Marlon Brando. Oh, well, that was bad anyway, so never mind. I shouldn't have. We're talking about the Godfather Trilogy because Megalopolis is coming out in about, 10 theaters in a couple days?
Yeah, and we thought we'd talk about something that, from the era before Francis Ford Coppola kind of lost it a bit.
A bit.
Well, in between periods of losing it.
Now you've got me wondering whether Megalopolis comes out near me it's Friday, isn't it? It comes out.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting a Thursday night showing at my local theater. It is in the smallest screen in the entire cinema.
Amazing.
There you go. Well, that is exactly how Coppola intended it to be.
Apparently, he wanted to have a bit that was driven by AI, call and response, where the audience could talk to Adam Driver, and they just didn't get it delivered.
Yeah, I think at the film festival premiere, they just had an actor come out. It's like the lights came off, and the actor just came out and delivered his lines to Adam Driver on the screen, and he responded, which sounds like really strange and clunky.
And I'm just saying, yes, it is showing in my nearest to local cinema on Friday. So we do actually get it in the UK on Friday, Megalopolis.
Yeah.
That is surprising, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to see it this weekend. Maybe the weekend after.
I might see it on Sunday, depending on my timings. I've got a gig in Birmingham on Sunday, so depending on if I get into Birmingham at like 11 o'clock, I might see if it's available at the Odeon in Birmingham. Well,
my wife won't be able to attend, so I bought an extra ticket if either of you happen to be flying in.
If you bought me a plane ticket as well.
Wow. Well, I've just looked up. It's only 138 minutes. That's positively nippy for a couple of film.
Yeah, but don't worry. In about 2 years' time, there'll be a Redux version that's about 238 minutes.
Oh, no.
Please. Yeah, but we're talking about the movies where he made his bones and then had to remake his bones because he lost them all. What are bones? Is that like a synonym for money? Like, what is it, slang?
Yeah, I've heard bones as money, yeah.
Why are you looking at us for that?
I don't know. You seem more gangster than me. You have accents.
Look, yeah, but you're the American, which is half of Italian American. So,
Ooh,
you're halfway there. We're really not.
Yeah. But
we invented kind of the modern thing of Gothic, which is literally like the antithesis of Rome. So, like the whole point of horror fiction starting in the UK is it's completely Protestant and therefore against like Catholicism.
That is a good point. So, yeah, we're talking about the Godfather movies. We don't have any questions or anything, and
I've got a question, just a general can talk about. Is there anyone else who had a better kind of run of films like in this period than Coppola did? You know, going from so you got Godfather Conversation, Godfather Part II, and Apocalypse Now. Can you think of any other filmmaker has a better run of 4 films than that?
I mean, in a row.
Yeah, in a row.
Around that period, probably not.
Not even necessarily around that period. Can you think of a better like?
I mean, Spielberg's got to have had a run at some point like that. I mean, if you ignore the fact that 1941 exists.
Yeah, but that's not the game. That's not the game.
But admittedly, then he does go Raiders, E.T., Indiana Jones, Color Purple, Empire of the Sun.
Already had an eh.
Yeah.
It's doable. But then you get Empire of the Sun, Last Crusade.
And his 90s are ruined kind of hook to start with. Lost World, following Schindler's List. Saving Private Ryan, AI, Minority Report. No, Catch Me If You Can. No.
I mean, on definitely not blockbustery, but in terms of general films, like Carpenter had the amazing run of Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, The Thing.
Yeah.
With Scorsese, you get like, oh, here we go, Goodfellas. Oh, Cape Fear. Gangs of New York, The Aviator, Shutter Island. Maybe Hugo, Wolf of Wall Street. Depends on your opinion of silence.
Okay. I've got it. Denis Villeneuve.
Ooh.
Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, June. I think that's comparable. That's a good run.
Yep. Sicario, then adaptation of a sci-fi novel, adaptation of a sci-fi novel, adaptation of a sci-fi novel.
Okay, so I just found this on the Letterboxd subreddit. Yorgos Lanthimos had The Lobster, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Favorite, and Poor Things.
Okay, that's pretty good.
And Mike Lee had Meantime, High Hopes, Life is Sweet, and Naked.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I can't believe I forgot about my beloved Mike Lee, but yes, that is definitely a quartet of films.
And I will say,
afterwards.
for a lot near the kind of end of the career, pick a section of Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And pretty much, I mean, even The Wrong Man, which I think is, I can't remember where I put up, but it's not awful. But then at the very least, you go Vertigo, North by Northwest, Psycho, The Birds.
Yeah, that's good.
Which is a run.
Yeah.
They also have listed here Tarkovsky with Andrei Rublev, Solaris, The Mirror, Stalker, and Paul Thomas Anderson, Boogie Nights, Magnolia, Punch Drunk Love, There Will Be Blood, and then a fifth with The Master.
Yeah. I think in terms of doing things at the box office for popular, if you say popular cinema, I mean, I don't know how the conversation did, but it's comparable. Ridley Scott must have had a run in there somewhere as well.
Malick also had Badlands, Days of Heaven, Thin Red Line, and The New World, but I don't love The New World personally.
But no, and for years that was his filmography, wasn't it? It wasn't added to it.
Yeah, for a long time it was 2, so...
Yeah, hang on. Ridley Scott, Duelist, Alien, Blade Runner, but then he get.
Here's the thing with Ridley Scott: he'll get like 2 or 3 in a row, and then there'll be one that you're like.
Film no. Hannibal, no.
Park Chan-wook, Thirst, Stoker, The Handmaiden, Decision to Leave.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
And Lynch, Blue Velvet, Wild at Heart, arguable. I love it though. Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me, also arguable. Lost Highway. Yeah. I wouldn't put it there for mainstream audiences. And if we're factoring in box office, no way.
Yeah.
I mean, you even say somebody like Bong Joon-ho, but then you go box office as well. Probably in Korea, maybe. I don't know, but
so it's quality of films going. Memories of Murder, Host, Mother, and Snowpiercer. That's a solid run as well.
Yeah.
Again,
it's like
there are a few, aren't there? But I think for this era, I think
it's definitely in the 70s. Coppola went on a tear out, and let's be honest, out of pretty much nowhere.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is, like, when we talk about the auteur era of New Hollywood, like, there were other guys there, Bogdanovich, Mike Nichols, God, who's that other dude? I can't remember.
Who did the Wild Bunch?
Oh, yeah, Sam Peckinpah. But Coppola was the one who, like, destroyed the box office and was really kind of elevated in that new era of, auteur cinema in the press and, you know, just kind of generally. So
Absolutely.
my thing with Coppola is that when everyone goes, oh, he's like one of the greatest filmmakers ever, they go Godfather Conversation, Godfather Part II, Apocalypse Now, and sometimes Bram Stoker's Dracula. But then you go to the others and go, have you seen You're a Big Boy Now, or Finian's Rainbow, or Rumblefish?
I have.
Peggy Sue
Hey,
Got Married.
Rumblefish is really good.
Yeah, Rumfish good, and The Outsiders is
Tetro.
interesting.
Tetro.
I even
everyone
like
goes,
I even like Peggy Sue Got Married. You know?
It's like he's done about 20 films, and people mention 4, sometimes 5 of them.
You're a Big Boy Now was his like master's thesis, where he pretty much just took the French New Wave and put it in an American story. In his he went and bought the book rights to that and then turned it into a film. And then The Rain People was his other like artsy film that got him here.
Completely bombed, yeah. And to be fair to Dementia 13, he was literally working as it was something like a camera assistant or something like that on some film that Corman was making in Ireland. And he got to the end and went, hey, do you want to direct something? Can you come up with essentially a Psycho ripoff in 2 weeks that we can shoot for this amount of money that I've got left over, using these locations that we've got left over? We leave in a month's time. So it's literally, you've got like a week and a half to come up with a script and 2 weeks to shoot it. And he did. And it's not great. It wouldn't be. Let's be fair. If it was, we'd go, oh my God, what's happened? Dementia 13 is not an amazing film.
He also made a nudie film before that.
Yeah. So it's like, when people go, oh, he's like the great director, I mean, for most people, when we think of Coppola, we kind of mention him for about 5 films out of his like 2025 that he's actually done.
You should watch Tetro. Yeah. That is his best
I have
20th
seen
century
Tetro.
film. Oh, I guess you didn't
That's
like
why
it.
I mention it. That's like one of the only ones that I've seen.
I've not experienced that one yet. I need to add it to the list.
I watched it and I'm like, it's a film, I guess. Like, he's trying to do something. Here's the thing. I can remember that I've seen it more than I can remember anything about it.
Well, if you watch his other 2 from like 2010, Tetro is it makes it like super excellent. It's also a point of comparison.
Yeah, this is my thing that I'm worried about for Megalopolis, in that realistically the last film he did that got any kind of massive kind of critical success is Rainmaker. Realistically. And that was 1997. Put it this way, I was born in 97. And the idea now that all the things are like, one filmmaker has constantly pushed the boundaries of everything, the legend that is. And it's like, what have you done in 27 years that's of genuine, massive excellence? Not much. So my thing is that Megalopolis could be the greatest movie of the past 20-odd years. It's possible. Coppola has it in him. But I also have massive reservations about the idea that he's going to suddenly turn up with a vanity project. Let's be fair, this is a vanity film, and suddenly blow everything out of the water. So I will go into Megalopolis with reservations, fully anticipating to swing to either way of this is absolutely amazing or this is absolute crap.
Wouldn't it be disappointing after all this build-up? It was just meh. You know,
I think I would actually prefer to hate it more than it being meh.
Yeah. I want a strong reaction from it, really, just because at least if you hate something, sometimes things are bad for fascinating reasons. You know, you can see, wow, this is a car crash, and how did this happen? It's really interesting to like work out. But yeah, if it's just middling, then yeah, that's gonna be the biggest disappointment.
If it just come out of it going, it was a film, I guess, then it will be slightly disappointing. But anyway, this is my thing again. Most of my kind of social media feeds are kind of in the film sphere, keep on track and things like that. So almost anything coming up is just like, oh, Megalopolis, Francis Ford Coppola, the greatest director of all time, and it's like this is going to save cinema. It's like, let's see the film first, shall we? Let's not automatically assume, based on like massive successes he had decades ago, that this is going to be the greatest thing in existence.
Well, I will take someone marketing themselves as a film visionary creating an original film over the next Marvel slop. So give me Megalopolis all day, no matter how it turns out, because I just prefer that style of film. Somebody who made movies a long time ago has had the craziest up and down career, and then was like, no, I'm going to put my money into making what I've wanted to make for over 30 years. Or 20.
But maybe say no. Maybe say no when the marketing team suggests manufacturing a lot of fake excerpts from reviews using AI.
But you are you're talking about, you got to kind of mix in that you have heard of me with, but you are talking about it.
Oh yeah, but also at the same time, do you think anybody not in film sphere is talking about Megalopolis?
No.
So, and the thing is, it's 120 million. If it makes back 120 million in the nicest way, I will actually be surprised.
It will not. There's there's not enough theaters.
No, it will, and that's kind of thing. And everyone will go, oh, it's the death of cinema. And they'll probably say that just because it's got a decent cast and it's done by Coppola. Even if it's the worst movie ever, people will go, oh, it's the thing. I was like, just shut up. And you know what? I appreciate him putting his money where his mouth is. But in terms of the Marvel slot thing, everyone goes, oh, we hate Marvel movies until they make a good one. And then everyone's silent.
I mean, even when
nobody said that about Guardians 3, because Guardians 3 was a hell of a good film.
Even when they make a good one, I don't really care. I go, oh yeah, Infinity War and Endgame are good. We'll get into Kieran's feelings on these movies. I appreciate what they've done. I don't give a shit, and the fact that they make that much money makes me dislike them even more.
Oh, so you dislike movies that make money?
Yes, I prefer movies that don't make money.
God damn Inside Out 2.
Then you must hate The Godfather.
Yes. Well, it made money in the past. It
was a hit of its day.
One thing Coppola said in the commentary is that there is no present. It is only past. And
there is no Dana, there is only Zool.
He's technically correct. The best kind of correct.
But look, as we know from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, time is an illusion. Lunchtime doubly so.
Yeah.
I think we missed a segue. Kieran, go.
The Godfather.
Yes.
Okay. Based on the book by Mario Puzo. Yeah, it was a gangster film that was meant to be pulp schlock and went through about 10 directors until they got to Coppola, because he'd had a failure and he would do the film for pretty much nothing. And he came on and he dragged Walter Murch, one of his best mates, on as well to help him out with stuff. And then they fought the whole way, and he made a movie that was about 3 hours long when the really should have been like 2 hours, probably, the producers were thinking, and it just makes a small profit and somehow makes history.
By the way, the expected runtime was 2 hours and 15 minutes. He cut it from 2:45 to 2:20, and they said, well, you've cut all the humanity out of it. Now you have to come to L.A. And he was like, oh, so I was coming to L.A. no matter what.
No, because here's the weird thing. When you make a film and you get investors on board, if it's not just like one studio pumping all the money in, if you're looking for outside investment into a film, I don't know if this was purely Paramount shoving in all the money.
Paramount, by the way, was owned by Gulf and Western at this point, so wow. This is so Paramount in the 80s had a mass exodus of Michael Eisner and other people that went and saved Disney after the guy who owned Gulf and Western died. So yeah, the film conglomerates, nothing new.
No, but if it's so, I don't know if Paramount just went, we're putting up all of the money for this. in which case it will slightly change my next point. But if you
I mean, basically, they'd seen a hit in another medium. So the Puzo kind of book was like the biggest bestseller in years, and I thought, well, surely that will make a great movie, and we need something big, because we've had a rough few years.
Because it was the thing about the length that you're saying. Normally, if you get outside investments involved in kind of the contracts and stuff, when they're putting in the money, we put in the money in exchange for this. Normally, one of the things that will happen is you kind of specify a runtime. So you get a little bit of leeway, normally around 5-10 minutes max. But it's essentially to make sure that, and then on kind of bigger films, you have something called a contract guarantor. My old lecturer is back to doing that as a business, a contract guarantor. So this is somebody that when they're making the film will constantly look at all the bits of paperwork that all the investors have put in, and he'll go, hang on, we've got a problem here because this guy put in money on the grounds that it was an action movie with lots of car chases. In the film we've got at the moment, there's one car chase and it's coming off as more of a thriller. We've got to change this. So one of the things that we'll be looking at is runtime. So if they've specified going, we want an action movie with Tom Cruise in that's 2 hours and 20 minutes, and the action movie comes out at 1 hour 30, the people that put the money in are not going to be happy because that's not what they invested in. So I was wondering if like the Paramount wanted one with like, in the contracts, if they put in contracts going, oh, we want it to be 2 hours and 10 minutes, and now the runtime of the Godfather is like 3 hours, somebody's not going to be happy somewhere, so they're going to have to have gone back and re-argued their case in order to.
I mean, there was a lot of interference, wasn't there, with like Coppola's vision and kind of who was being cast and the direction of the script and everything like that. So, I think that they had. Essentially, they were holding all the cards, weren't they? So, I would imagine that they'd have put all the money.
Well, to simplify, the entire battle, it was Robert Evans, the producer, and Coppola, the director. Just Evans in general is the stand-in for people giving money and trying to deliver the film that is expected.
Yeah. And it is hard as a balancing act because obviously a director will want to take it in one way and have a very clear vision, and sometimes that goes against what's on the paper, and it's the people giving the director the money that kind of ultimately decide, you can do it to a certain extent, but we also need this to happen as well. So and if you're an unknown quantity like Coppola was at the time, let's be fair, he hadn't really had a massive hit. He didn't.
He was a known quantity in the sense that he was like a name being thrown around. Like he's already in Andrew Sarris's book on auteurs in 1968. So, like, people knew of his
2 films.
Yeah, but people knew of his prowess as like a writer, a script doctor. He was a name. He'd worked with Warner Bros. 7 Arts. He had secured his own deal for the Rain People and Finian's Rainbow. Like he was known in the industry as an up and coming name.
As an up and coming name, yeah, but he's not like a surefire guaranteed. He's not like a Ridley Scott, or a James Cameron, where if you get him, 95% of the chance it's going to make money or be critically. You know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
It's to get him on anything at this point. Is he's known, but it's also a slight punt. And so he comes on board and he gets a cast of people that a lot of them aren't well known. Al Pacino, he had to really fight for. Marlon Brando was probably a massive handful. Sterling Hayden had done stuff, but then that's kind of
vital bodily fluids.
Yeah, he's been in stuff, but then he's one of these people like, oh, he's been in stuff. I don't know how much James Caan had been in.
He'd been in The Rain People.
Yeah, not a lot. Yeah.
Not a lot.
Him and Duvall were Coppola guys.
Yeah. Funny enough, one of the studio's objections to the casting was Pacino, and Coppola really had to fight for Pacino because he was too little and Italian looking, apparently. I mean,
Italian looking. We need an Italian guy.
He's a small guy, but like they kind of was on one of the documentaries I was watching on the Blu-ray. It's like huge objections, basically saying basically because a lot of Jewish writer directors and stars were in vogue in Hollywood at the time. They basically they're thinking, well, this obviously is what's making money, so we don't want to get a lot of Italians involved, even in a story about Italian Americans. It's a really bizarre.
Where they needed to have an Italian director, like that was their directive.
Yeah.
That's kind of the reason why they eventually went to Coppola.
Yeah.
So if people somehow haven't seen The Godfather or don't know what it's about, should we give like a 30-second rundown? Essentially, Marlon Brando's Vito Corleone is he's counting, is a mafia mob boss, head of the family. There's a load of gangster stuff, but he's also got a son Michael that's kind of kept outside of it. Don Corleone gets shot at one point, and then Michael slowly kind of comes in to take control of the mob boss family. At the end, kind of Marlon Brando's character has a heart attack many years later. Michael comes over as head of the family and starts to rule with an iron fist again and becomes Don Corleone, the Godfather.
Because as like the youngest son, he was Michael was never going to be like kind of take a position, and his person kind of kept out of like the business. He's returned from war and he was just going to go live his life, but victim circumstance, with Don Corleone, being so that narrowly survived an assassination attempt, and his heir apparent Sonny, not surviving assassination attempts. He's sort of pushed into the limelight very suddenly and has to get real tough, real fast.
And the impetus for all that is the Sollozzo and the other families wanting to deal drugs, and Vito is very much the old ways.
He's got standards, damn it.
We'll get done for tax evasion now. And also there's that Michael kind of gets beaten up a bit by one of the police as well. And therefore he's kind of getting revenge on him, is going to take him out at the same time as revenge for the shooting of his father, and stuff happens in about 3 hours of just beige. I seem to remember, and then even watching the second one and the third one, it's like the color palette doesn't change much, does it? It's just beige the entire time.
It's sepia.
In the second one, there is a very strong turn away from that in the Michael portions where he's in Tahoe, to really demarcate that difference. But the first film is like it's we talked about it earlier, just straight, let's take this sensationalized novel that's really popular and turn it into a movie. And so what comes along with that is, we do get the romanticization of gangsters. We get the perpetuation of like myths and ideas of, they're these romantic heroes who just want family. And
I was going to say I was watching them, and obviously in the first one and then in the second and third, I think between the three of them, they talk more about the importance of family than in all like 10 or 11 Fast and Furious movies. It gets on to be ridiculous at that point.
It's the optimum word, isn't it? I mean, I've got this quote from Stephen Farber, who kind of says the commentary on American history is provocative. The immigrant generation that struggled for a footing in America may have been ruthless and materialistic, but they tried to bring a measure of personal feeling to everything they did. Businesses were family businesses, so even if you're a criminal, it's a good old-fashioned family-run kind of affair, and you maintain those standards and you look after each other.
A man who does not spend time with his family can never be a real man.
Dom Toretto.
I don't have the cheeks. I don't have the cheeks.
That was all right. You got like the little uplift in the voice at the end there,
We're all going to attempt it and all going to fail.
Shall I just put this in my mouth?
Yes. No, we got to charge extra for this.
I was going to say, at least it's not an apple.
Kieran, do you have a favorite part of this movie?
Probably the restaurant scene, only for personal connections, because of hearing Walter Murch talk.
You were
about
there.
I was there. I've told this story before, haven't I? With the sound design for that one scene. So I won't go into it. So
Tell it again,
all
Sam.
the previous episodes and go back to all the previous episodes to try and find it. That's what you should do if you really want to hear interesting stuff about the sound design for the restaurant scene and how that proves that Mario Puzo had connections with gangsters and actual members. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean that seems good. I mean, it is all very well done and very well shot and beautifully kind of very technically, incredibly done, and you can see why it made the cultural impact it did. I feel like Jacob is trying to bait me.
No, I'm just seeing what you like about it.
I mean, look, there are reasons I think that I mean it's kind of this cliche of people, for you to ask a film fan what's your favorite film, and so many will answer The Godfather. It's almost like a running joke, and but there are reasons for that. I think it is like the sheer level of craft on display, like the care and attention, like every frame, and like the time, yes, because it is all of them, they're all long sits, but that pays off in terms of like the character work, and you really do kind of spend quality time and with these characters and their relationships with each other, and you kind of the ups and downs of their lives. So.
If it was made now, it would be an 8-part limited series. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen it, but it would be The Penguin. Well, then again, the Penguin was inspired by The Sopranos, which was inspired by The Godfather. So
so it's all one big circle, isn't it? I mean, I've read this thing about talk about how it looks. So obviously it's like it's in like the it was all made to look like that, obviously in the lab afterwards. Like the day of the rush stuff don't look like that. There's a lot of added time and effort put into the color correction, everything. The cinematographer Gordon Willis, apparently, he's basically his aim that's kind of this theorized by the guys at American Zoetrope who helped restore the films. They theorized that he filmed things the way he did. It was like really like solid kind of black kind of backgrounds, deep shadows and high contrast and everything, basically to create a negative that no one can mess with. The studio can take it off and then kind of lighten it up, to make things like clearer and less kind of less opaque, because it just wouldn't look right then. It's like that it could only work if it was like printed, kind of as dark as he intends it, basically. So
I mean, I know that Bong Joon-ho, especially something like Snowpiercer, shot it in such a way that it was almost impossible to re-edit out a sequence. And then there's the quick story of Bong Joon-ho about the fisherman sequence, I think it is, in Snowpiercer, and apparently Harvey Weinstein really hated that and wanted it taken out in place of another action sequence. And Bong Joon-ho comes back and goes, it's really personal to me because my dad was a fisherman and I want to do that as a nod to him. And Weinstein goes, well, family is obviously very important in filmmaking. You have your scene. And Bong Joon-ho's like, it's an absolute massive lie. My dad's not a fisherman at all. So there's been obviously lots of stories of them trying to screw the producers over.
And it was like an old Hitchcock trick as well, wasn't it? Just shoot what you know you're going to use, and then don't leave any excess, and then they can't.
I mean, Hitchcock. I think it was for Psycho as well. He knew they were going to have issues with one. I think it's the scene right at the beginning with Marion and Sam in bed. I think it is, and so he got and invited the chair of the board of classification to set that day. To show this is what we're doing, this is what we're going to have on display, and all that kind of thing, and that would kind of cancel out the rest of the entire film because he was on set, seeing how he all worked, and therefore there was nothing kind of gratuitous going on. So there's always been things of directors trying to screw over the producers to get things passed and how they want it.
Another thing about Gordon Willis was he was very structured. That's the term Coppola used to describe him. Old school in his use of the camera. Everything has to be from a point of view. And so the top-down shot, whenever Vito gets shot, he was like, whose perspective is this? And Coppola said, I don't know, mine. Just do it. And so that sort of conflict between the two of them, it brought out, something really good because Coppola allowed him to work. And then also it improved their relationship for the next two films where they worked together a lot smoother now that they really understood like how they were operating and what the ends they were trying to achieve were.
And the kind of, it's, I don't know what perspective it is, if his mind just shoots it, is kind of very much a Roger Corman attitude. And of course, Roger Corman then had a cameo in Part 2, isn't it? Obviously, Roger Corman giving Coppola his kind of film debut and whatever, and we've done the thing on him where it's literally just shoot the damn thing, make it not look awful, get it shot, move on.
That is kind of the hallmark of like all of the graduates of like the Corman school. Often they had troubled productions over the years, but they always got them done. Come hell or high water, they got through it and persevered. And it's about you making the most of what you actually had to hand, and not necessarily
a lot.
Exactly. Not always. Just making do. But like I say, it is the level of artistry and kind of just creating this completely kind of believable kind of rich and nuanced kind of world. That kind of really sells it.
Is it Churchill that had a rough quote along the lines of, gentlemen, it seems we're out of money, so we'll have to start thinking. And it comes across, I mean, to be honest with The Godfather, there's not too much to say that hasn't been said. No. It's like, it's The Godfather, and I mean, there are going to be people that sit and watch it and get to the end of it and go, that was actually fairly boring. Because it is, you do have to sink into it, and I will say that if you don't sink into it in the first sort of 30 minutes or so, it is a slog.
I mean, that is the wedding scene, which I think is the sequence that comes up with the most criticism of just being dragged out. But I would argue all of that is key because literally pretty much every major character is established in that scene and kind of what they're about and what they're going to be. What they're going to be aiming to see next. I
was going to say
I'm surprised I don't resent that scene more though, because I seem to remember in media studies class in school we probably watched that scene about 30 times. I don't know, close like textual analysis of it. But then you have the contrast between that and obviously the kind of the knife edge tension of the the restaurant scene and the finale, the juxtaposition, the cross cutting between the baptism and the massacre. It's he was versatile. I mean, showing his versatility, Coppola, and I think all that time you spend early on kind of really pays off dividends. And the final act.
The ending was Coppola's idea. It's very different in the book. It's just like, so here's how all this was done in very chronological order. But Mario Puzo was like, that's not going to work. And Francis said, we're going to intercut it with the baptism. And that is my favorite scene in all of movies. Like,
and you do kind of see that later because it's very similar to the end of Apocalypse Now with the caribou and the killing of that kind of. Which montage is it?
With the killing of Kurtz?
Is it? No, that which of the Eisenstein? Is it tonal, emotional,
intellectual
montage, or something like that?
In this, it's intellectual for sure because it's baptizing Michael in blood into the mafia, along with baby Michael being baptized into the Catholic Church and all that stuff. So
you'd think the amount of times I ask which montage it is, I would know all 5 of Eisenstein's montage theories by now. I don't. This is why I'm obviously not cut out to be an academic, because I don't know what it is. I just know how to tell people their movie's crap. That's all I've got. What more do we say about the Godfather?
I mean, unfortunately, the one in Apocalypse Now doesn't strike me as strong because it exists here. It's Coppola going, I'm going to do this again. And it's cool in its own way, but It carries so much strength in this movie for me.
I mean, in Apocalypse Now, it's kind of let's do this again because he didn't know what he was doing. It was literally the last night they didn't have it shot. There was a local tribe doing a ritual sacrifice with a caribou, and he went, quick, shoot that. And on the last day, quick, let's shoot him getting killed. This is how we'll do it because we have no more time. We're over budget. I'm slightly insane. Sorry, slightly, mostly insane. And, there is no other option. The fact it works as well as it does in Apocalypse Now is a testament to, by that point, he'd been on such a run that kind of, he just had an instinct of how it would work. Where that instinct went, for one for the heart, I don't know. Just deserted him completely. But anyway, The Godfather.
Well, and
The Godfather.
there's so much. Like, we say, what can we say that hasn't been said? I mean, here is one book that I have. I have an entire website that I sent you guys. Like, everything has been said about this movie. It is, there's a reason it is a classic. But Sam, do you want to have the fight before or after about whether 1 or 2 is better?
No, I think I'll stay. I think 2 definitely. I mean, it's the argument between like Godfather fans, isn't it? But I would say 2 definitely.
It's the equivalent of Alien or Aliens.
2 definitely deepens and expands upon like everything in the first film. But I think the first one's just so perfectly formed, just so neat and kind of everything that's placed. I think on balance for me, probably first is still tops it.
I definitely enjoy watching 1. Just as if I'm going to sit down and watch a movie and have a good time, 1. But I think 2 is the better film, and a lot of that. It's not just because Coppola gets control now. It's like what Coppola did with the control and how he took, what this. So one thing that Coppola had done is he filmed a scene where Kay converts to Catholicism and prays for Michael's soul, but. Instead of going with that ending, Robert Evans was like, no, we're just going to have the door close in Kay's face. And so what that kind of leaves the film with is we're looking through Michael's perspective at Kay, closing the door on her, as my professor described it, feminist, non-familia ways. And through the film, like, Kay is sort of a cipher for the non-Italian audience. Like, we are introduced to all the characters at the wedding as she is, and as an Anglo person, like I'm most ethnically identified with her. So like what she represents in the story is a departure from the evils of the mafia, and Michael essentially at the end of the film rejects that and is like, nope, I'm the Godfather. She looks sad, she looks distressed. We get one shot from her POV, and then it does the reverse to the door closing, and it's over.
Yeah, she has several like last-ditch attempts to kind of save his soul, essentially, doesn't she? But each time she's rebuffed for various reasons, and he's like, it's going back to James Earl Jones. It's too late for me, Kay.
and then in 2, she obviously has more agency, and we'll get into that, but. What 1 for me, just once I kind of learned.
This is 1 from the heart.
Yes. once I learned like how to really read and understand film, I was like, oh, okay, this is just a really good genre picture. It's not a critique of the mafia as much as I can read it that way implicitly. Like all those people killing people are bad. The film itself lacks that. And then 2 says, all right, now let's actually try and think about this and deconstruct it more. And I used to hate Part 2. I said it was the most unnecessary film ever. It's long and boring, and I didn't get it. And I'd
agree with that.
Drastically changed my view on that by, taking a class on Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah, I mean, Part 2, it kind of expands on and deepens the original, and this one, so it's about 30 minutes longer than
only
Part
30
1.
minutes longer.
It's a long movie.
Yeah. but it's it used that runtime to tell like two parallel stories, so it's hopping between telling sort of the rise of the younger Vito Corleone and the struggles of Michael to kind of keep his criminal empire and his family together, essentially.
By the way, Coppola wanted Martin Scorsese to direct this movie, and the studio said no.
Yeah. So I kind of argue that like for all its kind of epic crime kind of elements and like the labyrinth theme potting, Part two is basically a story, even more so than part one. This is a story about a big old dysfunctional family. This is like how the dysfunction and the problems of expressing emotions and being honest with your loved ones is kind of passed from like one generation to the next, and it's only exacerbated by like the line of work they're in, basically. So they're in obviously a dishonest profession, and it doesn't help them at home either. Got this. There was this piece on from RogerEbert.com by Gerardo Valero, great name, and he basically sees it as he kind of says it's a great film for kind of exploring like the unique bonds and occasional deep hate that can only fully take place between parents and children and their siblings. And the second movie compounds this even further by conveying how Michael's intelligence was not enough when it came to the inner workings of his own crumbling family. So he's kind of he's used like a lot of like a common like story element into, especially like male protagonists, like losing yourself in your work, and neglecting your family and stuff. But it's like they're so kind of interwoven in this. It's just he neglects one and damages the other, and basically the whole thing is just rotten to the core, essentially. I mean, it wasn't. It's a smoother ride, in the first one, because obviously, as you say, a couple had his control this time, but there was still, there's still some issues that they had. A lot of time came down to Pacino this time, who wasn't really that keen on the scripts and kind of the direction his character was going in, and I think he even said, like, when they tried to get him back initially, that until the script's better, I'm not coming. So Coppola spent entire, it says it only one night, but still a whole night, like rewriting like Michael's parts in the story, basically to kind of make him more appealing to Pacino. And Pacino was making demands of his salary, and now he was a bigger star, and obviously the rewrites and stuff. And he got frustrated apparently with Coppola's kind of slow and steady, meticulous kind of style. At one point, apparently yelling that Serpico only took 19 days. The president's quit.
You worked for Roger Corman. How is it taking this long?
Yeah.
We have Roger Corman sat over there for one scene. How is it taking?
Yeah.
Just when I thought I was out.
It's a nice days to film, and Godfather Part II completed in 104 days. So.
Well, you know what? Stanley Kubrick was up and going by this point, so obviously the two were in competition.
Yeah, probably. I mean, one of the surprising elements of this is, if you think about it, really. So you get De Niro into who we'd Coppola had obviously seen it in Mean Streets at this point, so that's why he kind of thought of him for the part. If you think about it, he doesn't look anything like Marlon Brando, does he? Saying that, though, slap a moustache on him and get him to have a certain physicality and vocal kind of cadence, and he's uncanny. There's not a moment where I don't believe that's the younger version of that same character. It's a real kind of chameleon sort of job.
The thing was, though, that Marlon Brando in general, and definitely as Vito Corleone, has such a distinctive voice.
Yeah.
That all you need to do is copy that voice, and everyone goes, "Yep, same character." That's it.
Yeah, it also, we didn't mention that Marlon Brando was like 40 when he was playing the aged Don Corleone. Like, they had to really age him up in test screenings for Paramount to be like,
well, I mean, you say aging. I mean, was he meant to be about 60? I think in the first Godfather, because Because the flashback scene at the end of Part 2 was set in 1941, and that's his 50th birthday.
Oh,
and most of the Godfather takes place like around 1950, doesn't it? Like turn of the 50s. So yeah, it'll be about
post-war years. I guess he
Yeah.
dies like late 60s, early 70s, but
yeah. Because he essentially retires, doesn't he, after he recovers from his.
but they make him look a lot older to me than he's supposed to be.
Yeah. It's a hard living, isn't it? You know, it does age you.
I mean, he's got to be the Godfather rather than like the God brother-in-law. You know, it's like you've got to have that kind of age to have the gravitas and respect.
Yeah. I mean, De Niro won Best Supporting Actor for this role. You know, which I think was the first instance of a new actor coming back to play the same character that won an Oscar and winning again.
Yeah.
You know, so obviously Brando got it for got Best Actor for the first film, and De Niro got Best Supporting Actor in this.
And that wouldn't be done again until the Joker for Dark Knight.
Yeah,
and Joker.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Oh,
so it's only happened twice.
Also, is that the movie, or is that the nomination where Brando sent up the turns out to be fake Indian woman?
Yes. In protest. Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
That lady was not a Native American, it turns out. So that's fun.
No. Yeah.
Oscar's madness.
Yeah. So De Niro was one of only 8 actors to win an Academy Award for a role primarily in a language other than English, because almost all of his dialogue is in the Sicilian kind of Italian dialects.
Who are the others?
He only speaks 17 words of English in the whole film, apparently. The others are Sophia Loren, Christoph Waltz, Roberto Benigni, Benicio del Toro, Penelope Cruz, Marion Cotillard, and Yoon Yoo-jung. So yeah,
there you go.
Fact fans. Yeah,
Oscars trivia.
This is also the first sequel to get Best Picture.
Yep.
Would
not be done again until Return of the King.
Yeah, but not the first sequel with a number or a numeral in the title, as Coppola often claims. Come on, Kieran, what was the first one? You can do this. It's one of your specialist subjects.
Is this to win?
No, not to win.
The first sequel with a number in its title. Film.
Of any film?
Yeah. Because normally they have like they add some like another word in it, don't they? Like
what, 2001?
I'm gonna go with Zombie 2.
No,
that was 77, 78.
So the first sequel just have a number added to after it to denote that it's a sequel rather than giving it like a subtitle or something.
Oh, okay.
It's British. It's horror.
British horror before 74.
Yeah. It's Hammer.
Oh, is this going to be like Frankenstein, Dracula AD 72? 1972? Oh no, but you want like a something.
Yeah.
Oh.
Here's just stuck on numbers in general.
Yeah, like something 2. Oh. They didn't do a Dracula. Was there a Mummy 2? I don't think so. Frankenstein didn't do it.
Nope.
You didn't do it with Mummy.
Shall I play out of your misery?
Please.
Quatermass 2.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And then he had Quatermass in the Pit.
Yeah.
To be fair, Sam,
Quatermass Experiment, and then Quatermass 2, and then Quatermass in the Pit. Yeah.
What he says he did was Part 2 with a Roman numeral, and not just saying Godfather 2.
But he does like to claim that he was the first, and he's completely wrong. So that's my point.
Let's get going, because I just wasted a minute and a half going, oh my God.
So apparently to get Coppola back, they had to bribe him, essentially. So they gave him a lot of perks. So it was all this creative freedom. They gave him a Mercedes-Benz limousine. So I'm just trying to find the other terms he had, but
Final cut.
yeah. It's I mean, obviously, you got a conversation obviously off the back of this. Basically, they said, "Yeah, we'll fund your little passion project if you come back and make some more money in the Godfather universe."
I'm sorry, Sam. I've literally just gone to Owl of Interest Quatermass 2 on Wiki.
Right.
It is often erroneously considered the first film to feature the title. Apparently, the distinction belongs to Sanshiro Sugata Part II from 1945 Japanese film.
Wow.
Who was the director?
Japanese
director, 40s.
Not Kurosawa.
Oh,
wow,
okay.
All right.
I just assumed the only one I can name is not it.
So both me and Coppola were wrong.
Yeah.
So
I mean, one thing with Part 2 is it has Lee Strasberg in it. It has the method acting guy playing a character, and like Coppola in the commentary is like, so Strasberg in this scene, he's been on a plane for 20 hours, so he really brought in that sense memory. And like, none of that comes through for me, but I love seeing Strasberg in a film.
Yeah, and apparently it was his illness, that real life illness, that kind of made them basically rewrite the character, because he was originally going to be like more dynamic and physically imposing and threatening, but thought, we'll have him as like an old, infirm kind of old-timey gangster,
Which makes it make less sense when he's like, yeah, me and Mo Green from the first movie were friends in childhood. And I'm like, but Mo Green's like 20 years younger than you 10 years ago. The math doesn't add up. By the way, Mo Green getting shot through the eye is one of my early memories from my childhood in film. Scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. Well, it is gruesome.
People were brought up wrong, I tell you.
I disagree.
I mean, I mean, essentially, it's obviously you have the kind of the storyline of the younger Vito kind of making his name, coming over to America from the old country, and gradually working his way up from small time hoods, to found his empire in New York.
It's a big time hood.
Yeah. And it's, of all things, his illicit business starts off on the back of importing olive oil, which I think is a nice touch. Couldn't get more Italian than that. But then it obviously in the presents kind of presents kind of tracks. You have Michael. So it's best part of a decade after the end of the first film, and he's well into his years as the Don of the family, and he's trying to expand his operation not only into Las Vegas but into Cuba as well. So he's going back and forth across the states and to Cuba. And to be honest, I've not seen this in a while, and I'd completely forgot about most of the Cuba stuff. You forget how much of it is actually there, and kind of
to be honest though, it's that long you can think you remember it fairly well, and there's still half the film that you've forgotten is in here.
Yeah, like how it kind of builds in like real world events, like the Cuban Revolution and everything like that. It's kind of adds that kind of verisimilitude and kind of real world kind of touchstones, which I think helps.
And it's crazy that like for people then, the Cuban Revolution was more living memory than 9/11 is for us. It was much closer in time, like. When I was watching this and trying to catch on to the the story of Vito is also very like romantic, and he's doing it the right way, right? He's helping out his neighbors, and by the way, Don Fanucci is my new favorite Godfather character. I've gotten a new appreciation for him, but like whenever he shoots him the right way, up close and personal in the face, versus when Michael is sitting in a window watching Al Neri kill Fredo, spoiler, Fredo dies. Kind of where I've landed on the two sequences is one is purposefully nostalgic and like, oh yes, gangsters, so noble, honorable people.
Yeah,
and
and if you had to get your hands dirty, you did the job yourself. You wouldn't ask them to do something you wouldn't want to do yourself.
And it's got those orange hues that Kieran's talking about. But then, Michael's going to Cuba. Which, by the way, they could not get sun. It took them like 1 million years to shoot those Cuba scenes.
And they weren't shot in Cuba either, were they? Obviously, because it would have been a bit difficult. So
Dominican Republic. But
wow, that's almost as bad as Disney not shooting where they thought to for their documentaries.
The realities of mobsters is they're businessmen. Doing corrupt things like in real life, trying to divide up. They divide up a cake with Cuba on it and pass it around at a birthday party.
I love me some sledgehammer symbolism. I really do. I mean, if this fascinating kind of bit in it, basically the mafia on trial, like in front of like a Senate hearing, and it's like which. Based on actual occurrences, some real gangsters were kind of put up, kind of to justify their crimes, and there was a lot of kind of like evading the subjects and not kind of committing perjury of himself, and just taking the fifth and everything. I mean, the original plan for it was to have Clemenza come back and be the main kind of the key witness, on trial, but because the original actor, I can't remember his name now, but because he didn't come back, they killed him off screen instead, and then just invented a new.
He said,
kind of chubby gangster to fill that role.
He said he would only come back if he could have a guy, an associate of his, write his lines. And Coppola was like, no, this is my script. You're dead.
Yeah. So they refused that, but they didn't refuse James Caan coming back for one scene and receiving the same salary he received for the whole of the first films. So it's weird the battles they fought and the ones they just dismissed straight away. But I really.
He said the lines on the page.
Yeah, I really like those kind of Senate hearings, and just kind of like it's almost like the private kind of face of the mafia, kind of the family being on trial and having to obviously air their dirty laundry in public. I think that's a really kind of interesting kind of aspect to kind of explore.
I really like just all of the Fredo stuff because we talked about the family in the first movie. Well, Fredo he has to be a bigger part because Sonny's gone and Tom Hagen's kind of out of the family at this point. He's the legitimate lawyer now.
Yeah. I mean, did they ever properly explore why Fredo wasn't considered like an heir to the empire? Was it just because he's so pathetic and inept? So
yeah. I mean, we see why. It's because he's talking about banging 2 cocktail waitresses at a time. He can't control his wife. Mo Green slapping him around in public. Like he just wasn't suited for it. And
I mean, there's great kind of scene like the family, kind of, when the family are all gathering, for celebration, and as you say, his wife is kind of acting up, and and one of Michael's kind of heavies kind of sours over to him and just says, Michael says, if you can't control her, then I will.
Yeah, like oh my God, the scene where he's like. So after the betrayal, Michael knows about it. He's in that floppy chair, like that weird limp, flaccid recliner. Like that's such a great little staging that really makes that moment. But just Fredo throughout the film.
That's probably one of the bits I remember of The Godfather 2, like the most.
There's
anything.
I know it was you, Fredo.
It's the bit where Michael's standing up and he's in kind of the chair kind of falling back purely because everyone's gone, oh my God, genius staging. There's that, and then there's one shot near the beginning where there's somebody coming up to the doorway and there's whoever it is standing behind it with the gun ready. You've got that one frame for all together.
Young Clemenza.
To be honest, I can't remember where that comes with it.
They're stealing a rug from somebody.
Yeah.
Like I watched,
just,
I did watch The Godfather Part II again yesterday, but I find it very hard to get into the movie. So it was like 3.5 hours of stuff vaguely happening for me. Like, it's there. I've seen it technically twice. Like, I ain't got a clue.
It's okay to be wrong.
Bits that happened. So yeah. My apologies for being very much on the back foot for this part of the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, should we talk briefly about the kind of the tragically short career of John Cazale? Because I mean,
three Coppola films.
Yeah. Literally, just I mean, what he would have gone on to do after this, but just to have this kind of the Godfather Conversation, Godfather Part II, Dog Day Afternoon, and Deer Hunter. That ain't bad.
And how many Oscar noms was it? Was it 5?
Was he nominated for them all? Probably.
Or it was just every movie he was in got nominated?
Yes. So he was definitely nominated for Godfather Part 2, and I think Dog Day Afternoon, Deer Hunter. Yes, I think it was 3.
So good.
All the films he was in were nominated for Best Picture.
Right, so
the man did not miss.
Conversation, Godfather 2, Dog Day, and Deer Hunter.
And like the character he plays here, it's so pathetic, and he does it so well. Like,
he does, and I love like their different ways of like aging them up as well as they approach middle age. As the decade wears on, because they just put a few lines on Pacino's face and like a little bit of grey in his hair, like in like the final scene. But with him, they're like, I think they purposely made him look more like Brando. It's like they give him like this like really pathetic and wispy moustache, and then these big eyebrows, and like build up his forehead and recede his hairline a bit. It's quite extreme.
He's got the scene where, so another scene they couldn't shoot was the daiquiri scene. They kept melting and they had to make a fake daiquiri where he's just, talking to Mike about all his problems. And, I don't know, Johnny Ola. And then later they're in the club and he's like, oh yeah, Johnny Ola told me about this place. And then Johnny Ola's on screen for about a minute in the movie, and he's better than anybody in Godfather Part 3 in a similar role. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's like all the siblings, all the surviving Corleone siblings. They've got like major issues, and the life they lead really exacerbates matters. I mean, Talia Shire's it's Connie, isn't he? I think half these people I think the actor rather than the name. I remember Michael. I remember
Coppola's sister. Just remember that.
But yeah. Connie is, she's an alcoholic now who's neglecting her children, and she's going through her husband's like rapid rates. And obviously they've got Kay and Michael, the marital problems, and everything like that. I mean, I'm a big fan of kind of veiled threats, to kind of in scenes with children, So when the scene where it's Michael's tucking up Anthony up at night, and he's saying, "I've got to go away on business tomorrow. Can I go with you, Daddy? I want to help. I want to be a part of the business." And he says, "No, don't worry, you will be. You will."
Oh, but he won't be. Sadly, he'll be a singer like a loser. Another Coppola family. I mean, there's 3. It gets insane, but Roman Coppola is young Santino, Sonny, whenever they go to Sicily. And Coppola said they had to curl his hair with a curling iron every day for shooting.
They did, yeah. It's like how do you sum up like young James Caan? You dye his hair blonde and give him ringlets, essentially.
Yeah, I don't remember if Gio was in this one, but Sofia had played Connie's baby in the first one. Gio might have been one of the little kids, but I don't know.
Again, one of the flashbacks is obviously, because you see as the years march on, you see all the kids, coming, growing up around Vito. You have a line about Fredo, that he's like a sickly child, he's got fever or something, he's struggling, so it's the idea he was always like the runt of the litter, basically, wasn't he? And never was never going to amount to much.
Yeah, and the final shot of the movie is Michael alone, instead of the first movie where people are kissing his rings and everything's great, which gets cut up differently at the beginning of this movie to make it more like, out of fear rather than respect. Yeah, we get lonely, sad Michael remembering being held out of a train by his dad in Sicily.
Yeah, and apparently that scene originally it was like a two-hander. It was because he's obviously older in that scene. It was a bit of a flash forward. And it was going to be him speaking to an older Anthony and kind of again kind of deciding whether he's going to be in the business or not. I think, but
that would not have worked.
They cut that side of it out and just kept the shots of Gino and kind of looking forlorn and thoughtful.
Yeah, and the he's in the frame like on video. He's way to the left side, like he's very trapped in the frame. That's a great shot in the first one, whenever he's in the bathroom getting the gun and he's like stuck in between all the doors for the stalls. Like it's a much simpler version of that, where he's screwed himself, he's trapped here. It's depressing. It's steely blue instead of orange.
And they really do like the restaurant assassination, like a different version of that, except at this time it's a bit botched, But that obviously comes comes back later on, where it turns out it was meant to be inept, and they meant to apparently say that they were apparently sent by Michael, but it was all to drop him in it. So it's one of these. There's a lot of like little plot threads that you don't think amount to anything. It's like, why was that said? Why did this happen? But it all kind of comes together by the end. It kind of it does pay off. You just got to have patience with it, I think. Do you want to hear about all the oranges?
Sure.
Do the oranges quick.
Yeah. So the presence of oranges in all three Godfather movies indicate that a death or assassination attempt will soon happen.
By the way, we should note Coppola was conscious of this by the third Godfather. Carry on.
He wasn't for the first two, and somebody pointed it out, so it was like, I should do that for the third one.
Yeah, I think it was possibly a happy accident in the first one, but I think he kind of comes onto it. So there's a senator is framed for murder after playing with oranges at the Corleone house, and Johnny Olive brings an orange into Michael's office before the attempt on Michael's life. John Finucci eats an orange just before he's gone down, and Michael's eating an orange while he's plotting to kill Hyman Roth. And then obviously you have the younger Vito Corleone buying oranges before his assassination attempt on Don Finucci, and of course Vito dies after choking on the orange peel. So it's I mean, why orange? I don't know. I suppose it's a quintessential Italian thing, maybe.
But it's also Spanish as well. Oranges.
It's a European import, isn't it? And it's like
Mediterranean.
Does like death follow them around the world wherever they end up? Maybe.
Maybe in the first one it was a cheap fruit.
maybe. I mean, this is kind of considered like a masterpiece alongside the first one now, but the initial critical reception was a bit more divisive. People kind of obviously the cinematography and the acting, as expected, were kind of acclaimed, but often thought it was kind of very very slow paced and unnecessarily convoluted. Vincent Canby of the New York Times said it was stitched together from leftover parts. It talks, it moves and fits and starts, but has no mind of its own. The plot defies any rational synopsis. And Roger Ebert, he was fairly positive, but he said it gave Coppola the difficulty in maintaining his pace and narrative force. The story of Michael, told chronologically and without the other material, would have had a really substantial impact, but Coppola prevents our complete involvement by breaking the tension for the flashbacks. But he did later add it to his great movies list. And though he said he wouldn't change a word of his original review, of course he said that. He eventually praised it as grippingly written, directed with confidence and artistry, photographed by Gordon Willis in rich, warm tones. He did come round to it eventually, but it is a more challenging kind of film, I suppose, and a kind of it really demands your attention. You kind of you got to be patient with it and just let it kind of all come together. Trust that all the threads will kind of tie together eventually, and that like the larger canvas, will kind of elevate kind of all the seemingly incidental kind of events.
And in 74, like, the context is, we just saw 2 years ago, like, one of the most exciting, cool gangster films ever made. And then this is the follow-up to that. And I understand that impression, because that was basically my initial impression. One thing that I remember saying, probably around like 15 was 2015, not 15 years old, is that the story of Vito Corleone as a kid is unnecessary. It's like that Han Solo movie they're going to make. And then, you
could have easily cut straight to him, kind of starting his criminal career in New York, couldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it felt unnecessary. And then once I learned more about it, it really grew on me a lot. In addition to, I find a lot of the parts enjoyable now that I didn't whenever I was younger. So I wasn't that young, but younger.
Yeah. I suppose with the kid Vito, obviously you do get that payoff eventually, where he returns to Sicily, and kills off the old Godfather. Finally gets his revenge. That's a satisfying, very satisfying little moment.
Yes.
I did wonder in the opening scene how rubbish were the bodyguards of the Sicilian Godfather, not being able to catch like little kids or hit him in the back with a gun.
Yeah, but the mom gets blown away. Like, people say that. She flies to the other side of the frame.
Well, they are using double-barrel shotguns, aren't they? I mean, they have a kick to them.
Yeah, maybe it was the accuracy of the guns was the problem.
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, it does reward kind of your kind of rapt attention to it, and I think if as long as you have the patience for it, and you've seen the first one, because why would you just go straight to this part two? It only works kind of in tandem with the first film. Kind of taken as a whole, they kind of add to each other and kind of lift each other up and kind of deepen the characters and everything like that. I mean, I think it's a lovely kind of coda, not being a pun on the third one, but one of the final things we do see is that flashback, like almost like one of the final like fairly normal kind of family meals they might have had together, all gathering together and to celebrate Vito's birthday. Originally they were going to get Brando back, but I think he asked for too much money or something. So they just got a sound alike in to do a couple of lines when he comes through the door and just have him off screen.
They should have aged up De Niro to just walk in, but whatever.
I did love that scene. It's like they're the rest of them that they look pretty much exactly the same. They don't bother to like do anything kind of in terms of making them look younger or anything. But Deval, they just put on a terrible wig just to give him, because he probably had hair 10 years earlier. But it's just
the easiest way to make somebody look younger, isn't it? Just change the hair.
Yeah.
I suppose if someone's famous for being bald or kind of receding hairline, then I suppose probably the easiest way. But equally, Deval still has a fairly craggy face. So they didn't do anything about that.
Kieran, was there any part of the movie that you did like?
I mean, I do like bits in parts, and actually one of the bits I do remember liking and got back to again and go, oh yeah, I remember this is when she tells Michael she had the abortion to not allow any evil back into the world. It's like it's a really nice and powerful part. I mean, I appreciate, and this is my thing that I've said to you guys in the comments. I appreciate the Godfather films. I just don't emotionally engage with them. So it means I can appreciate the artistry, and I can appreciate the craft and the technique and the acting performances. But at the same time, there will never be a time where I go, you know what I really want to put on to emotionally connect with? The Godfather Part 2. It's not going to happen. If I was to make a list of the best films of all time, I mean, we did the top 10.
Hey, we did.
If I was to extend that to like 30 or 40, I would probably put The Godfather in there, because I can't fault The Godfather. And maybe if it was up to 100, I'd put The Godfather Part 2. If I was to make a list of my favorite films for the top 100, Godfather wouldn't be in there, because I split the two up. And at the same time, I do realize that I absolutely adore films that are in no way near, like, technically the level of The Godfather, and that's my thing for them. I sent you the clip of Family Guy, where they're all on the ship. Peter's drowning, and whenever I think about The Godfather, I think I almost have exactly the same views as Peter. It's like, I did not care for The Godfather. It's like, it's a very well made film, but you know, both of them. The third one we'll get on to. They're very well made. I can't fault it from a technical standpoint, but I also don't care from an emotional point of view, or not an enjoyment point of view, but kind of. If that makes sense.
I've just checked my own personal like top 100 like film list, and these they didn't quite make the cut. I thought I couldn't remember whether I put them in or not, but they wouldn't be far out. But...
And as I said to you, it's not a Coppola thing or a length thing, because when we did the top 10 best films of all time for the Film Magazine, I mean, I made a top 15 or 16 initially, then cut it down, and Apocalypse Now was in there. I adore Apocalypse Now, and it's not a length thing.
And if I'm going for a Coppola film to put on, that is my go-to.
No it's just for whatever reason I don't emotionally connect with this. I have the same problem with Scorsese as well. There's just I can't fault the films, I just don't connect with them.
I did have The Godfather on my 10 best.
Yeah, we knew that, which is why we were shocked that initially you weren't. Spoilers: who's going to be reviewing Megalopolis for TFM? And we were initially shocked, like 2 days in after the list went off of things to take, and I was like, Jacob, you haven't immediately taken Megalopolis. What's going on?
Oh, I forgot about it. But before I get to see Megalopolis, I had to rewatch The Godfather Part 3. I mean, Kieran,
as you can remember, it sounds like a chore.
Key question here: should they have left it at two, just the two installments?
I mean, yeah. I don't. So I think the original story was supposed to be like a war between Michael and Tom Hagen, which may have been better. I don't know. So here's the problem with The Godfather Part 3. It is also it's also very competent. Like it's it's the exact same team. It is everybody. Everybody was just brought back to make 3 like 16 years later. The issue with The Godfather Part 3. So Paramount was going through another cycle of this after everybody left. They're going through another cycle of like financial stuff behind the scenes. They put a marketing executive as the head of the studio. I'm sure you could see where that's going. Yeah. The Godfather Part 3 was made to be released Christmas 1990. And Francis Ford Coppola had been through the 80s. He had lost all of his money. He was being pursued by one of the investors from One from the Heart, whose demands inflated from $3 million to $7 million. And so,
I mean, I demand a lot from having to watch One from the Heart several years ago with Jacob. Go back and watch that episode.
Yes.
Listen to it. Yeah.
And Sam is now eating his orange. God, who's gonna die? It was basically two people who needed a movie to be made coming together mutually to rush out a movie really, really fast. And the guy who was in charge of Paramount's studio production at that point was like, look, all of the budget inflation stuff is on me, because I was trying to rush everything. I understand the problems that were going on, But the fact is, we needed to make and release The Godfather Part 3. We needed to show that we could still make a prestige picture. We needed to get the financial injection from it. And on top of the box office stuff, which obviously was much lower than the other two, and 2 was already lower than 1, at this point you had cable release, you had video cassettes, and so not only were they releasing Godfather Part 3, they were releasing a 2-box set on video cassette of the other 2 films. They had an HBO deal where they were showing them on there. They were just trying to capitalize on The Godfather in every way possible to bring in as much cash as possible.
I mean, you'd never see anybody else doing that. It's not like, I don't know, Disney would do anything with Star Wars or anything like that, or Warner Brothers would do anything with like Harry Potter. It's just never going to happen, is it? You know.
Without that stuff, Disney would be where they were in the 80s. So, I mean, the shit works, unfortunately. But yeah, they were just cranking out everything. I'm sure that they tried their own version of Funko Pops or something. Like, I would not be surprised. But yeah, basically Godfather Part 3 is, I need money. Francis Ford Coppola needs money. Let's make a movie. And so Francis Ford Coppola wanted 6 months to write the script. They gave him 6 weeks. He had to change everything when they couldn't pay Robert Duvall what he wanted to be paid, so he was not involved. That changed the script again. Winona Ryder was sick and could not do the movie days before shooting started, and so Francis said, look, we're going to get put behind if I don't just cast my daughter. Like, people think that was the plan or something. No, he even, in his commentary, talks about, yeah, I mean, she wasn't a very experienced actress. Whenever he does his best to compliment her by saying, like, there's truth to her performance, which I see that. Like, I can see an eagerness, a desire to try. The moments where she's like flirting with her cousin, which I will get to, like, those seem real. But like, that was the central theme of the critical reception, or a central theme, maybe not the, but like, if they could have just pushed that movie to summer 1991, they could have put another actress in, like Madonna test screened for it. They could have waited on Winona Ryder to start feeling better.
I don't think Madonna acting would have improved this film.
No.
We don't know.
Though, I mean, to be honest, though, you could have got, I mean, anybody about 25 to 30 max, realistically. You put out an open call in Hollywood going, we're making The Godfather Part 3. Almost everybody will try and get a part because it's The Godfather Part 3.
The problem was they didn't have time for that. So they just threw in Sofia, and that was not like the first choice. That was not the best choice. Nobody thinks that.
So you're saying it was scheduled for Christmas Day 1990. When was the project greenlit?
I want to say it was in 89. Like, this was fast. They had teams of editors editing like the dailies into the movie, essentially.
Was this like very, very late 89? So it's like a year turnaround kind of thing?
I couldn't tell you the exact year. I just read through the first chapter of this book on that portion, and I spent too much time reading about the the Paramount stuff, which, another fun fact, the one of the initial investors in the original Godfather movie was apparently part of some mafia scheme to buy into that corporation that is in The Godfather Part 3. That was a scheme that occurred.
Is that knife imitating art or art imitating life?
The latter. Yeah, no, Coppola took a lot of things that had happened to him, a lot of things he was feeling, and injected them into this script. Like the opening line where it says, the most important wealth or whatever is your children. And that's really how he was feeling at that time. His son had recently died, tragically. He was in a boating accident where his head was like destroyed by a tow line in between two boats. Like, it was a violent death. And then in this movie, you have Sofia Coppola getting shot and dying on screen. Like, there is a very personal aspect to this film that there is a lot of that in 2. It's even more present here just because of what he was feeling at the time, the people he was working with, which included his dad doing all of the music this time. And then it's like featuring some music from Nino Rotona. But this was his dad's film musically. His uncle is conducting the orchestra during the opera because he wanted to bring his dad and uncle back together to remember the good times, and then they just fought anyway. Like, it still wasn't the good times. And also, the play that's in part 2 was a play written by his grandfather. It's called Sinzamama or something. So, yeah, it was an authentic, like, first-generation Italian immigrant play. Yeah. But part 3, yeah, it's really pushing into, like, for better or worse, the very personal aspects of what people think of when they think of auteur cinema. Very strongly Coppola.
I mean, we can say all that, but the question is it good?
You know, that's a complicated question, and I'll get to that because there's multiple cuts.
Yeah. Because that's the thing with that's the thing with auteur cinema. The idea is like, it's kind of a touch of greatness purely because it's got all these signs. It's like, well, very possibly, but if it's a bad movie, then it kind of goes against anything. The whole idea of auteur cinema is that by having it be an auteur is automatically a great movie. If it's not a great movie, then the whole idea falls apart.
Yeah, for me, it's a misguided movie. And I think you can all too often see like the points where they didn't have the time or the energy to kind of do things properly. And apart from anything else, I don't think any Godfather film should have ever had a scene where a big helicopter machine gun assassination attempt. Really,
that's
more Star Wars, is it Star Trek Into Darkness? I think that has something like that.
Something Coppola talks about in all of these commentary tracks is having to like add something unique to every scene of violence, so it's not just guy gets shot, guy gets stabbed. How do we make this one individual? And so, I mean, at that point, you've done everything. Like, yeah, helicopter, shoot him up, why not? But
well, I mean, this is a thing with John Woo doing Gun Fu, because there was a long time where kind of Eastern audiences kind of thought that gun shootouts were fairly boring and bland and lack of imagination. Just turn up and bang bang, it's all over with. So John Woo bringing in martial arts and gun fu, bringing that to it was to try and make kind of gunfight assassination kind of things more interesting. So it wasn't just a standard shoot 'em up. And I guess Coppola was trying to do something similar. Of how do we do something that's not just a standard walk in, bang bang, drive off again.
Yeah, and so Coppola wanted this to be called The Death of Michael Corleone, but was forced to call it The Godfather Part III, much to his chagrin. And the opening of the theatrical version is that compounded Tahoe, and it's all like worn down and abandoned. And then it cuts to Michael getting, the Pope's Medal of Honor or whatever it is, and then the big family party thing that is in the opening of every one of them. The plot, essentially, is Michael wants to fully be legitimate. He is fully assimilating into American capitalism. He has divested all of his mafia and illegal...
The idea that American capitalism is fully legitimate is laughable at best.
Well, the movie agrees. And it also expands into European capitalism for this one. But he wants to be fully legitimate. He divests from all of his gambling and other illicit means of making money, and he's given out $700 million to the Catholic Church, and he's given out jewelry and gifts of $50 million to the Dons. Like, he has made it at this point, but his son Anthony wants to go his own way and be an opera singer, and he's opposed to that, but he finally allows it. He doesn't have a super close relationship with him. Obviously, with Kay, she's married to another guy. He's close with Connie now, but that should have been not something he had to rectify or to do out of guilt for killing his own brother, and that sort of wanting to be forgiven for those sins of the past is very much the thrust of his character. And then, of course, he pays the ultimate price at the end, much like he watched his wife get blown up in a car in the first movie. Now he watches his daughter die in his arms after getting shot in an assassination attempt on him. So even though he's technically been forgiven by the Pope, he gets everything he wants financially. Well, it comes at the cost of his family, his real wealth, which is his children.
Family.
Is this a good movie? I think that if it was a standalone film, if this wasn't Godfather Part 3 and this was Old Man Mafioso seeks, forgiveness for his crimes, it would have been received better, I think. But it's the Godfather Part 3. Yeah.
Because it's part of that kind of lineage, it will be obviously be compared, and kind of it's part 3 of a larger story, and it's like reading an epic tome of a novel, and then it just falls off a cliff from like the final few chapters.
Yeah,
the Stephen King model.
And here's the thing as well. It was obviously that they needed money. I'm guessing they needed it like now, because if it was a case of we need it in 3 years' time, anybody else would have just we can spend like a year and a half just hyping this thing up to hell. If they'd have had another 6 months just of marketing, or just like taking it on and on and on, you'd have got another at least 50 mil at the box office, purely because because of the anticipation for it.
By the way, here, we've talked about would they bring in somebody else to do it? Sort of threatening that. Well, the people they considered were Russian director Andrei Konchalovsky, Sylvester Stallone, and Eddie Murphy. They were being considered in 1985. So, could you imagine Eddie Murphy's Godfather Part 3?
But that's really weird, because has Eddie Murphy even directed? Had he at that point? Has he since?
I don't know. I could not tell you, but God, I really wish Eddie Murphy had made this movie now. But one of the big plot lines that's cut from the original Godfather book is there's a character named Lucy Mancini. We see Sonny go off and have sex with her during the wedding. In the book, she has a large vagina. That is her thing. And she is Vincent's mother, and Vincent's Andy Garcia's character. So she's brought back in. She's very dignified now, well-to-do, and her son is accepted into his family in a sense, but he has been, sort of out of their lives at the same time. So Michael takes him under his wing, but it's clear from the conversations in the film that he hasn't been around the family. Particularly the conversations with his love interest and first cousin, Sofia Coppola. Now, something that / Mary Corleone, something that Coppola talks about in his commentary track is like when he went to family reunions, it's an authenticity thing to him. Cousins would flirt with each other, like teenagers would be flirty. And is that weird? Yeah. But if it's a thing that happens, like I can see it, like whatever.
Yeah, it's not condoning it, and I suppose it does make the characters more interesting and kind of because they're weirder, It's I'll say this for Andy Garcia. I think for me, he's probably one of the highlights of the film. I think he's great in this. I really do.
He's good.
I was going to make a joke that the whole film is about family, so it makes sense.
But to come in and have to be like probably the biggest name, like one of the biggest names, joining this kind of stacked cast, make your mark. I think it says something.
Yeah, he fits in really well. And had he really just done Untouchables? I don't know anything else he had done. But yeah, I mean, whatever. Andy Garcia is good, but their love story, it does have elements of, oh yes, cousin, let's roll this gnocchi together. And it's very odd how much they draw attention to the fact that they are cousins. but like, whatever. I don't care. Also, I learned that he said his Coppola family line. He had a great or great grandmother who she would scratch her nose with a sewing needle. Well, that got infected, and that was at a time where they amputated things that, got infected. They couldn't treat it. So she didn't have a nose, and the only person she could marry was her cousin. And so his grandfather or great grandfather is the product of two cousins coming together. So like all the cousin stuff is just life observance for him, as weird as it is. Yeah. And then also, Sophia, for him, adds a personal element of we're watching this character die on screen. That makes an extra level of tragedy, even if she's a inexperienced actress. She'd been in movies. She was in Rumblefish. She was in Peggy Sue Got Married. She was not a professional actress, and obviously is a much better director. So I do think she does detract from that final moment, though, by saying dad. And I get why Coppola wanted to leave that in there, but even that's delivered poorly. So many of her lines are delivered poorly. It's not great.
It's almost like he didn't want to direct her because he's a dad. It's like, I think I'm sure he would have given pointers to any other performer in that role, but because it's his daughter, just you do me a favor being this, just do what you want, and
doing amazing, sweetie.
Imagine casting your daughter in, or admittedly last minute, but The Godfather Part III with the one that realistically the film franchise that got your dad made, and then having to go, can you act
he
better,
became a
please?
made man.
Because that's the equivalent. It's just like the passion project that the thing that made your father's empire, and then turning around and go, your acting's awful, do that better, please. It's just not going to happen, is it, really?
Yeah, and it's a good thing Al Pacino is like insane in this movie. He seems effortless. He's cracking jokes here and there. He's like, hey, you're going to sing a Sabala whatever? Well, I'm going to eat a Sabala sandwich.
And we got to that really gravelly Pacino stage of his career as well, haven't we? I mean, I don't know if aged him up like older than he actually was at that point, but still, it's like he's got that kind of... It's almost like a parody.
Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Which
at least they do. They have like one standout line from each film. At least they managed to keep that up.
Yeah, I mean, there's less of them, but yeah, I really think that's probably just like because Pacino was at this point in his career, it was like a 90s meme somehow. There were some weirdos on the internet posting that, I'm sure, and that whatever film forums existed. But I mean, one of the big weaknesses is like the side characters in the first two movies have more character to them. They're better. Like, so think about Tessio. That was an open call guy, and like he fits in really well. And then I compare him to the banker for the Vatican, and like I don't care about that guy. He's really boring, and like I'm sure the actor's an accomplished actor. I mean, probably like some theater guy in New York or something, or Italian cool weirdo. But no, he's very boring.
He's probably got like 3 BAFTA nominations and a Tony Award or something stupid like that. Like most of these people, you look down, they played a part for like 3 seconds, and it's like, yeah, they got an Oscar nom in 1973. It's like,
so we talked about Clemenza was supposed to be Frank, whatever his last name is. It was supposed to be that, but that actor brings so much to that role. He's such a character. I can't really, like, even Eli Wallach doesn't really meet the bar of what I'm looking for in these movies. And I will give Joey Zaza, I forget his name, the guy from Criminal Minds. He's good. I like him a lot. There's a lot of character there, but and then another big weakness is that it had to be recut to really have like forward thrust. So when he released the coda in 2020, he put the scene where Michael meets with the banker. It's kind of shot like the opening scene of the first one. He puts that at the front of the movie, really propels the plot forward in a much better way, even though it's not even cut that differently in that first half.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot less kind of fat to it. That his final cut kind of, it just, as you say, it's got momentum and a stronger through line, just with a few small adjustments. I think it made all the difference, really. Just having all those years, to mull it over, like, why didn't this quite work?
And I love...
It's because you had hardly any time to make the dance.
Yeah.
I really love the opera sequence too. It's just a captivating piece of art with all the masks and the performances, the singing.
Here's the thing. I would argue there's never two things that automatically like elevate a film a couple more points. Is a train scene and an opera scene. They're always highlights in what.
Why do you think Hitchcock did so well?
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, that scene where we see Andy Garcia just cold blood blow that guy's brains out in front of a mirror, like, it's cool. Like, there are moments here, and I really wish they had more than like a year or whatever it was to make this movie, because the Godfather didn't deserve to go out like this. It's a fine movie. It's not an excellent movie, and that's a bummer. It's a disappointment more so than it is a bad film.
Yeah, it's. I mean, sometimes diamonds are made under pressure, and sometimes when you have 3 days to make a movie, you can somehow bat something out, and it actually doesn't. I mean, we did a whole thing on Roger Corman, so he's done films like that, and even kind of a couple of years after this, Event Horizon, where the whole film was like from conception pretty much to coming out was about 8 months. So it can be done and have the impact, but you're also playing a massive risk with that. And even something like The Godfather, just the sheer length of the film as well. If it was another film that kind of you're going to get this kind of thing and it's like an hour and a half kind of thing, you have less to go wrong, if that makes sense. You can cram all that in. You've got kind of everything boiled down. Something that's this length, you've got more to think about. You've got more to cast. You've got more to it just takes, there's much more effort to make something that long and still hold the interest.
I think Coppola wanted a vacation to Sicily for half of, that's what it feels like.
Yeah. It's just it's one of those films where you look at it and you go, what could have been if he was allowed another 6 months?
Yeah. And the good thing is the ending, well, of the original, what happens is Michael, he's holding Sofia Coppola dead in his arms. He cries. And then we watch him have memories of dancing with his wives and his daughter. And then he's sitting in a chair in Sicily, puts on those cool sunglasses that he acquired in this movie. He falls over and dies. His dog walks up and sniffs his dead body. And in the recut version, he puts on the sunglasses, sits there, and then it fades out. We only see him dance with his daughter in that one. And I think that they both work for me. I'm still trying to parse out which one I like more, but I do like the succinctness of just showing Sofia Coppola in conjunction with the only wealth is children. Instead of showing all of the women he's harmed, which is more than those three, it really just kind of puts that emphasis on the children, and I think that works a little bit better. We don't necessarily need to see him die because he died with her on those steps, in a way. Oh, and the silent scream is awesome. Walter Murch is the one that cut the scream. So
good.
Yeah, genius move. That may be the best part of the movie is Al Pacino going.
Yep. Sometimes it's a lack of sound that does it.
Yep.
Considering he came up with the term sound design. Literally, he's the one that came up with the term. So.
Well, you need to ask him about the Oscar then. He'll know.
I was going to say, I will go back to my lecturer who worked with him on Cold Mountain and get him to, ask the question. That's not going to happen.
You know what? If they're going to remake any of these, I would like to see someone remake Part 3. Just do it more justice. Just pretend that one didn't happen.
I will also say, this is a completely random note, I just remembered in Aberystwyth, which is where my university is, there is a fish and chip shop called the Godfather. Just saying.
That's excellent.
I've never bought anything from there, but I walk past it on occasion and I go, there's something genius about that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, there's a place in a town not far from me, which again has a similar kind of very unlicensed, unapproved kind of aesthetic. But it's they don't even go for the pun. They just call it Vito Corleone fish and chips. It's just got a picture of
not a Vito Corleone pizza, you know.
No, it's got fish and chips. It's got a picture of Marlon Brando just above the door. I never understood.
Of course, there's
he sleeps with the fishes.
In Jack and Jill, they have the Dunkachino, where he makes a lot of hilarious puns while he's advertising for Dunkin' Donuts blatantly in an Adam Sandler film.
And now we start talking about Jack and Jill. I think that's the time we need to.
Yeah, we're obviously overstaying our welcome here. We've gone crazy.
I wish I could just play the Dunkachino scene. One time, me and my school cinema club, we just spent an hour watching Dunkachino remixes, and there's so many. Say hello to my chocolate blend. It's great. It's the only good part of that movie. It's genius.
No.
Yes.
If you don't wrap this up, I'm just going to leave.
Well, then I guess that's it for The Godfather. But
we will never discuss it again.
Yeah, we never will. But we will discuss something next week. We're going to keep that under wraps for now because it's related to a super secret that isn't out yet. Yeah. But until then,
we'll be back at our usual Thursday slot, I believe.
Ideally. But until then, guys, where can people find you?
You can find me at SSP Thinks Film and at the Film Magazine, where this week I have done a ranking of all of the Coen Brothers films. So check that one out. It's always it's never a chore, to go back and rewatch, many of those movies, except for the two that aren't very good. But I didn't rewatch them, so.
You knew you were going to put them last, so you don't need to.
Yeah.
And to be honest, you just kind of pick which way you do. Yeah. I'm hopefully you don't find me anywhere because I'll be hiding under a pile of oranges, probably dead. But if you do, I'm Judgmental in the various places. I don't have anything up this week, but I know that I think this afternoon we have uploaded. I think Margaret went and reviewed The Substance, which I've no idea what she says about it yet, but I thought it was absolutely amazing. Demi Moore, out of nowhere, doing a very good Gail Weathers impression. So yeah, I'd highly recommend go see that and check out Margaret's review. I think it's now up.
Damn it, Kieran stole my plug. You can find me at Jacob Film Guy.
Yeah, but you've actually written stuff, so you can plug your own things.
Well, but it's not out yet, so I guess read my review of Megalopolis when that's out. But I was going to also recommend her review of The Substance, but instead I will recommend Martha's His Three Daughters review. So there you go. There's another movie that we've reviewed.
About daughters.
About daughters. Is The Substance about daughters? I thought it was about substance, but...
yeah, I mean... It's about women, I guess. It's directed by a female as well.
Women talking.
At the very least, go support female directors.
And writers at the Film Magazine.
Yeah, exactly.
Also...
I can't remember her name, but the other film that she did is the second one. The first one she did was Revenge from 2017. The rape revenge film in the middle of a desert, which is very good. I remember it for it's like star, like is it sunglasses or earrings or something like that, and a final 20 minutes running around blood-soaked round and round a house, seemingly in the same direction. But yeah, Substance is very good.
Margaret also reviewed The Company of Wolves, 1984. So she is blowing us out of the water right now, Kieran.
I was going to say, we're going to have to up our game. I won't comment on Company of Wolves. I kind of had to do a partial essay on it first year.
All right. So that's you can find us at Second Cut Pod. Email secondcutpod@gmail.com. Obviously, you're here on our YouTube. Give us a thumbs up or thumbs down or whatever. Just interact with it. Give us a comment.
I was going to say, please leave comments, so that we know that things are happening.
5-star review on iTunes, wherever you get your podcast, blah, blah, blah. Go to our Redbubble store. We have a exciting new line out for film, and then...
Nicely done.
And then give us money at PayPal if you don't want to support the capitalist structures and materialism, or less so. So is that all I say? I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
Adios.
Bye.